Present to you for induction into the Sports Hall of Fame, former coach Deb Palmer.
First of all, I would like to thank the Hall of Fame for including me in the class of 2017, and also a big thank you for all of the people that went through the nomination process for me. I'm very pleased to have my family here. We've always been ultra competitive in everything we do, so my competitive nature definitely originated with my family. My husband, Bill, deserves a big thank you for putting up with being a coach's spouse. I could not have continued to coach as long as I did without his support. Love you. I'm very happy to be joining my good friend and mentor, Jack Keeney, in the Hall of Fame. And last but not least, without naming names for fear of forgetting someone, I want to thank all my Panama people, my teaching colleagues, my volunteer and assistant coaches through the years, and most of all, my former players. The biggest reward of coaching is not the wins and losses. It's watching your players mature as human beings. It is heartwarming not only to see my players succeed in their careers, but also to see what great people they have become. I'm so lucky to be able to call many of them friends. And a big shout out to the Panama community. There is none other like it. Supportive always, but you better win. I found it interesting when going through the Hall of Fame membership that there are two other women who were in the Hall inducted as coaches with a Panama connection, Kay Gould and Jolene Nagel. Kay is a Panama graduate who was a highly successful basketball coach at Southwestern. Jolene Nagel is currently in her 19th year as a successful women's volleyball coach at Duke, and she is my claim to fame as a former player of mine. I was fortunate enough to arrive on the coaching scene just as women's sports were taking off. As a graduate of Chautauqua Central, my athletic experience was limited to intramurals and play days with other schools. From there, I moved on to Cortland State, where I had my first experiences with organized teams, playing both softball and basketball for the Red Dragons. My first teaching job was in Whitesville, New York, where I worked for 2 years immediately after graduating from Cortland. I coached 4 sports there a year. Started off with soccer, went to volleyball, went to basketball, went to softball, and I was paid $100 a sport. Talk about doing something for the love of the game. That was it. I started coaching in Panama in 1976. Back then, everything about women's sports was new and exciting. Some interesting facts. Our girls wore the same uniform for every sport. We had county-wide playoffs, no sectionals with classifications by size back then. Sports seasons were 10 or 12 games long. Individual stats weren't really that important. It really was an innocent time, maybe sport at its finest. Panama's success over the years was due to several factors. Obviously, I had great kids to work with, but more than that, they bought into a philosophy. Panama teams were always hardworking, committed, and schooled in the basic fundamentals of the sport. We had stringent rules about missing practice. We weren't ever really fancy, but we did the basic things well. I am proud of the fact that we never had a winless season, and very few seasons where we lost more than we won. So for the most part, life for Panama volleyball and softball was pretty happy. I'm sure if you asked the girls that played for me, most would say I was a big pain in their behind, a stickler for doing things the right way and putting the team first. I really wasn't there for them to like me. I was there to help mold them and to make our teams the best they could be. I think that too many coaches worry about being friends. That's really not in the coach description. We became friends after they graduated. I played enough softball to realize that strong pitching was needed to be successful. So the number one thing I tried to do was always develop pitching. We've had a number of great pitchers at Panama, and they were certainly a key to our softball consistency over the years. In small schools, you hope to have enough good players for key positions while developing your young players to fill the holes. People often fail to realize that we have many great teams and coaches, people like Dave Polchetti, and Paul Cooley in our area. Some of my strongest teams over the years never made it out of Section 6. Talent plays a role in success, but there are so many things that come into play, not the least of which is the talent pool in your opponent's schools. Softball was probably the easiest sport for me to coach because I played it for so long, but volleyball became my first love. I never played organized volleyball, so it was a big learning curve for me. My first few years at Panama, I coached both JV and varsity volleyball, mainly so we could have a feeder program. There's just no comparison between volleyball then and volleyball now. In the course of my coaching career, many changes occurred. Specialized positions of switching, the addition of a libero, back row attacks, scoring changes, and technique improvements. We won the Far West Regional back in 1986. Unfortunately, there wasn't a Final Four at that time. We went to the Far West Regional again in 2003, and we lost. So to have this year's volleyball team finally make it to the States and win was a combination of many years of hard work. The team and coaches Hosier and Yuketa put the finishing touches on our program. I couldn't have been more proud than I was watching that historic state championship and undefeated season. A sincere thank you to the entire Panama community for a great ride. It truly was an honor to work and live there. So many great memories. Love that Panama blue. Thank you.